Wow, look at that casino behind me. Just blew up. Harvey's Casino in Lake Tahoe. There's a book about it written by the author's here, John Birges. We've been talking the last hour about this. This is going to be on again tonight at 9 o'clock. Do you know what time tomorrow, Sean? It'll be on all weekend, Saturday, Sunday. Let's bring in John. Clovis High, have I said that enough times? Clovis High people rule the world. You know, this teacher we had, Mr. Matoyan in Clovis High, he went on to be head of HBO for a while.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So you soon left Clovis after all this?
I had to. I mean, it's after everything came out on the news and stuff, and the arrests were made. I couldn't get a job.
This was almost a perfect crime. I mean, you almost were able to collect the ransom. I guess the helicopter pilot made a mistake. You never really had all the rendezvous, but you guys kind of got away with it. There were very few clues left behind, and you guys planned it that way.
Yeah. Other than the ticket I got, Joanne running into the side of the mountain, there really wasn't. Well, the big mistake my dad made was that when he went to take the bomb in with Terry Hall and Bill Brown, they checked into a motel,
right.
And rather than switch license plates or do something, the hotel owner got the license plate number, and that was one of the big solid leads that came out of it. You know, they added a $500,000 reward for the arrest and conviction, and so she gave they knew a white van had dropped the bomb off, so you know, obviously with the reward and whatnot, she turned in the license plate number.
That's almost like a 1 in 1,000 chance that she would have looked out. They're having some car problems and they're making some noise, and
Yeah.
she looked out and she wrote down the license plate and kept it all that time, a year it sounded like.
Actually, I think she gave the clue about 2 months afterwards, but it wound up not being one of the major clues, and they actually didn't rediscover it until several months later. And then that's when they started their investigation in Fresno.
Yeah, it sounded like the security guard at the Harvey's saw these two guys come up. They're pretty easy to describe. The one fat guy and one tall, maybe tan-looking guy.
Right.
And when he said that, and they compared it with the clue of the hotel clerk or the hotel owner, that she had a similar description, guys in jumpsuits, and
Right.
almost the same description. Things started falling into place. You're driving back. Okay, let's go back. Joe Allen?
Oh, Joanne.
Joanne.
That's
okay.
what I knew her as.
She, the helicopter didn't drop. You're in three places. John Sr. and Jim were at one point. Joanne was in another, and you were in a third. And all
Right.
these things were going to come into play. When the helicopter landed in the meadow or wherever to drop the cash, John Sr. and Jim were going to commandeer the helicopter.
Right.
Take it to you, drop the money to you,
Right.
and then fly back to where Joanne was, and I guess she was going to drive them home. Or
Right.
something.
They're just going to ditch the helicopter, and then we're all going to rendezvous back in Clovis.
Now, what was amazing reading this book is that the planning that went into it wasn't a 10-minute plan on how to drop the money. It seems like that was one of the most intricate parts of the plan, how John or you or whoever wrote out step by step by step what the FBI should do about not touching the bomb, what the pilot should do, how the money ought to be transferred, how we ought to get in that helicopter and shine a flashlight around so you guys could see no one was in it, and all these steps was just written out so carefully. And you know, was that a long part of the planning? Were you involved in that?
No, I wasn't. But the ironic thing is Ella Joan Williams, Joanne, was a Fresno County probation officer. So I'm sure she knew things about the law or things of police procedure or investigative procedure. So I don't think my dad would have known all that stuff.
Right.
So I think they both concocted it together.
But I guess it sounded like that was kind of his nature, though, to over-plan and tell everybody else exactly what they have to do, and it came through in that note.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I guess the pilot, who only had 3 minutes to read the note and take the ransom out, missed a step in the directions.
Right. It said to fly in a straight line along Highway 50. Well, he didn't pick up on that and wound up following the road as it winds through the mountains and was several miles short of the rendezvous place.
By the time he went the number of prescribed miles, you know, it didn't match
Yeah, it was
up.
air miles versus driving miles, road miles.
So nobody showed up. You're sitting out in the middle of the forest. Daylight comes. You go meet up with Joanne and say, let's go find John and Jim, and at some point you're driving a little fast, she's following you, and she crashes.
Yeah, that was not a good thing. Not
and you quickly realize she's got to get to the hospital.
Yeah.
Picked up John Sr. and Jim, took her to the hospital. Only you took her in? Is that how that worked?
Yeah, I don't know how I got stuck doing all this stuff. I made the phone call to the helicopter pilot. I made the phone call for flipping switch number 5. I wound up taking Joanne into the hospital. I was the one driving when we got a ticket. I was kind of like getting a little tired of it.
Also, over that 1 day period, you hit a deer.
Right. Well, there was a lot of stuff. The battery, the deer,
You got to read this book. All of it is in the book. It just is incredible, the detail and how things unfold and how complex this thing really was. So I guess that as it wraps up, they had a reward of $250,000. They raised it to $500,000. All of a sudden, more clues started coming in.
Yeah.
I mean, your girlfriend knew. Maybe her friends knew. Maybe some of your brother's friends knew. Sooner or later, a few people know. And
right.
But what happened is somehow they identified your van. It was registered to your father?
It was registered to my father, and the feds went to my dad's house. I didn't know this at the time.
That's the biggest part of the story right here.
Yeah, so then anyway, they come to my house. And
his dad says, "Oh, you want to talk to my son?"
Yeah, he was really a nice guy.
Yeah, that was kind of a real pivotal point in the book.
Yeah, it was a pivotal point in my perception of him. I mean, here he is selling me out, and I'm like, I call him up and I go, what are you doing? Why? These guys are here. Why? And he just said, come to the house. We'll make up a story why your van was up in the Tahoe area. Mm-hmm. So I go out to his house, and him and my brother sit down, and we concoct the story that I'm up there looking for a place to grow marijuana, which doesn't make much sense. I don't know if you can grow weed up in Tahoe or not. But, the feds bought it for the time being. The whole time they were still investigating us, and eventually I was indicted by the federal grand jury in Reno, Nevada, which I had to go up there and testify about why my van was there. And again, I lied about the whole thing. And over the next couple months, they put together enough information to prove that I had perjured myself. And that's when in August of '81 is when they came to my house, guns drawn, and arrest me. So I go down to the federal building, and they're telling me the boat's leaving the dock and this, that, and the other thing, and I'm just I didn't know what to do.
But at some point, somebody called the FBI and said, "You need to be looking at John Birges Sr. He's really the guy."
Right. Yeah.
And
I don't know if they knew who was in the mastermind or whatever, but I think eventually they figured out that my dad was the one that was doing it.
Well, even then you were a kid.
Yeah.
Maybe 21 by then, or 20?
20.
Yeah, 20 years old.
Yeah.
Certainly they, at some point, had to realize this 20-year-old kid didn't come up with this grand scheme. I mean, you need motive. You need a lot of motivation. I guess looking at your dad, they could see some motivation there.
Right. Well, obviously, I'm not even old enough to gamble.
Right.
So what would I be doing in Harvey's casino?
That's right. And so they finally arrest you. We only have like a minute left, but they arrest you. They arrest your brother. You
Right.
both pleaded guilty.
Right.
To what was
Conspiracy.
And then your dad was convicted. He pled not guilty.
Right.
And fought it.
Right.
And did you and your brother testify against your father?
Yeah, we wound up having to do that. Well, I was never really given any kind of deal. I was just told I was going to have leniency along with my brother, and we didn't get sentenced until after everything was done, after both the federal and state trials were over with.
And then your father, of course, served the rest of his life in prison.
Right. Yeah, he died in 1996.
Which prison was he in?
He was in Lompoc for most of the time.
Federal prison.
Yeah, in Santa Barbara County. And then they moved him to Sparks, Nevada when his health began to fail. And I think he died on either the 26th or the 28th of August.
Wow.
Whatever it was, 16 years after the bomb, almost to the day, which is pretty ironic.
Chuck Leonard's up next, and I think you're going to stick around and talk to Chuck some more.
Yeah.
Now, if you think this was fun, wait till Chuck gets you with John, because he's going to take the gloves off and really have some fun with this. But the book is here. It's autographed by John. I think he'll send us some more if we need him, too. autographed. And if you're in the tower, come down and get John to autograph it for you. Anyway, I'm Mike Briggs. This is Newsmakers. We'll be back next week with Amber Fry on Friday at 3 o'clock. Thank you, John Birges, for
No
coming
problem.
and
Thank
sharing
you.
the story. Well, let's do it again, because
For sure.
we didn't get to cover enough. Chuck Lennon's up next.